Good morning, it's Friday, April the 3rd, and we're going to do another video here today. First one on the itinerary is Visa Incorporated, and it's on the New York Stock Exchange. And we have a current price of $152.40. Looks like so far today we're down 3.13%. And just quickly looking at some of the technicals that we have here. The market cap is $328 billion, which that's a little bit larger than, well, the majority of assets that we've looked at recently. So yeah, what does that really mean? Well, that means for this price, the price of Visa to double, let's say hypothetically, let's say for the price of Visa to become $300 per share, the market cap of Visa would have to be worth 656,000. That's how much it would have to be worth. They're gonna have to double in value to double in price, unless of course they did like some well, unless they made more stocks. Sometimes they can do that kind of thing. In the land of cryptocurrency, you'd say, well, if they printed more coins or if they printed more money, right? That's the point I'm trying to make. But overall, I think you understood what I was trying to say about the market cap, and looking at that, that's a lot of money that has to pour into Visa for it to have a double in value. Not that it couldn't happen, because it's a well-established payment system, and it is a big industry. I think it's $1 trillion industry easily worldwide. Visa just one of a couple. And it's about 330 billion. So when you calculate MasterCard and PayPal and those type of payment processing companies, you're looking at trillions of dollars. So let's just pull up the chart here and see what we can say in terms of just trends and everything. Well, here we go. That looks like a pretty good solid uptrend. So looks like I have drawn a trend line here once upon a time. I'm not really sure if I like that anymore, so let's just do another one here. I'm just gonna hide the volume just so that it's a little bit more clear. And this is just very basic stuff that, well, it's just kind of a good start for any charter asset. Now the problem is going to be I can't see where it goes, so I'm gonna have to just actually worked out not too bad. I don't mind that. So we got one touch, and then we have a consolidation of touches right here, and then we have our final touch up like so. So Visa, look at this. It's never even been on a month-to-month sense. Look at it. It's never even been in the negative here on this momentum. That is quite unique. That means that Visa's done very, very well over the last 10 years. I guess for the first time here, we've had a little bit of pullback in a long time. Continual pullback, 3 months we've had. And I guess we haven't seen anything like that in terms of losses for a long time. But yeah, nonetheless, that's something that is kind of unique to Visa here. All these other charts that we've looked at kind of have a little bit more swings in terms of this. Visa's just been growing steadily throughout this whole thing. But now, how long can this happen? We had one of our first, so let's just say we look at these little bumps in momentum. So each time we reach a little bit of a new height, and right here we've reached a new height compared to this past one, and then right here we reach another new height, and then here it looks like we didn't quite break new heights again, and we've had a little bit of a depression back down here. On this monthly sense, it looks like we have a crossover, which Visa is having its first tick down, it looks like, ever. So what's going on with Visa? What's going on with MasterCard? What's going on with PayPal? What's going on with the fiat currency? What's going on with the global macroeconomic environment? That's kind of the big question, isn't it? So in terms of macro trends, I couldn't really say I have a really good premonition about what what's gonna become of Visa. I think it's well enough established to consider that in some way, shape, or form, it's gonna morph or transmute into whatever new system, if indeed Visa and MasterCard and PayPal become extinct. Let's just say that. I imagine that some part of them will be formed into the new system of payment. And what am I really talking about? Well, the potential that we could go completely digital into a digital currency, and more and more so. That's not a far-fetched idea, as you can see a lot of things like a lot of different stigmas being attached to cash as dirty, as potentially transmissible of viruses. So with that, that just might be the one of the final nails in the coffin with vilifying cash and the need for digital assets that can be transferred from person to person, clean and safe. Now, who's going to be that person? Is it going to be Visa? Is it going to be MasterCard? Is it going to be PayPal? Are we just going to use the normal Canadian dollars that we have right now, the fiat currency, the US fiat currency, the fiat currencies of the world? And when I'm saying that, the paper currencies, right? The paper currencies that are not backed with physical assets. So when Nixon took the US off the gold standard, it was funny enough, he said it was only a temporary leave of absence. So that's where you can't necessarily trust the governments when they say, "Hey, this is just going to be a temporary stay-at-home mandate." Yeah, it was a temporary change from the gold standard too, and we still are not doing the gold standard. So that's just where when more and more money gets printed, obviously the value of these paper currencies gets less and less and less until you see moments in history like Venezuela, where their currency, lost 30 times their value, 30 times its value in a year. So when you could just think of that, a dollar's worth, 30 times less, it's pretty troubling. Basically $30 is worth $1 now. Just think of that. And then in Germany, when you've seen them extend their fiat currency into the point that it was absolutely worthless. People bring in wheelbarrowfuls of money and can't even buy anything with it. So that's the attractiveness of, let's say, a centralized, well, not a centralized. When you look at, let's say, cryptocurrency just as one of the possibilities for this transfer of wealth, that's why I'm personally in it, because of that looming potential. Now, there's no guarantee if we do indeed move to a digital currency that Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these bigger cryptocurrencies are going to be the new form of global monetary currency. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But I think, however, since they're already in that space, there's going to be a lot more potential for trading and buying of those assets because of the increasing digitization of currency. So this transition could take a long time. It could take, how long does it take to change how money works? It could take a while. How long would it take to get off the gold standard? That's kind of the potential that we're running into right now. And increasingly so, like countries like China are basically cashless, right? It's all on it's all facial recognition cameras and the 5G grid, and you don't really need the things that we used to need. You don't really need a bank card anymore. It's on your phone, and pretty soon it might not even be. You don't even need your phone because they've already identified your face when you walked off the plane, and they say, "Hey, nice to meet you, sir. Looks like we have your bank account here. We'll discharge that for you, nice and dandy." And then for most average people, it's convenient. Hey, I don't got to carry my wallet. I don't have to have my phone anymore. I have interface all around me. So that's just like well, that's my over analytic mind thinking about the possibilities for the future. And that's when investing, there's always a portion of that to be blended in, let's say, with your technical analysis. Like, what's the chance that scenario X, Y, or Z could transpire? And then while looking at the technicals and looking at some of the developments over the world and kind of seeing how things are trending, and just knowing that humans are trendy creatures. Look at all the people wearing masks, and look at all the people. Just look at, why do things trend? Because people generally just copycat. So whether or not there's a real validity for the use of masks, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's real or not, people will follow along. I mean, I've watched many experimentations. I mean, experimentation. Well, I've watched many experiments proving these facts, and it's very interesting to see how the human mind works. I mean, it's probably one of the best things to research because you are a human too. So understanding how you work, how you could be deceived, how you could be controlled, subversively. These are great things to understand, in my personal opinion. So, way big of a rant there, and I haven't done any technicals. So let's get to this. Let's just get back to volume here and see what we have. A lot of volume at the start, and it's kind of flattened out pretty good. We've had a little bit of a red sell candle. What is that from? I mean, is it just a part of people selling shares to cover losses during this pandemic because businesses shut? Or is it just there's less transactions being? I imagine Visa, a payment processing company, makes profit off of transactions, right? They make cents per transaction. What is happening less right now on a global economic scale? Well, transactions. Businesses froze. Small businesses aren't operating. My business is closed. The 3 cents that they got every tap I had is now not coming to them. So there is some reason or rationale that this could go down. And I imagine, well, we don't have too much from 2008 here, but potentially payment processing is going to make more in the bull market. That is I mean, this is just ideas coming off the top of my head right now. This is not researched information, but you'd think that more transactions, more money for Visa. Less transactions, less money for Visa. So if we had data that was correlated, let's say, to the 2008. I don't know why. There's no way that Visa was invented in 2009. Let's just look this. (1958). The Bank of America. All right, so seeing if I missed it or there was some longer data on Visa, but I don't see anything jumping out on me. So if anyone knows that there's more data going back in the future with Visa, that'd be greatly valuable to making some idea, about the future because we don't have any information about the last bear cycle. So it's just like, yeah, look at Visa, look at it. It's done good the last 10 years of the bull market. Which stock hasn't? I mean, when you look at most of the stocks we've looked at over 10 years, they've done pretty good. This one is tough to use these tops and say be scared because, hey, I mean, it's been in the green the whole time. It hasn't went down. I mean, what are these decreases even? Let's start looking at some of these decreases from top to bottom. 30%. That's well within bull market's stature. Like none of these are really bear markets, right? None of these are bear markets. These are just like small ABC correction waves as we continue to the upside. Like right here, I hate how that does that, but 53% was the biggest drop, and we don't know what led up to this, so I don't know. Can't say much right there. Let's just take a couple other looks here. 19%. 38%, so this is the biggest drop in Visa. Well, basically since 2008. And I wish we had more information or data concerning that. So let's just zoom this up a little bit because we're still somewhat supported by this trend line. And we also have, let's say, this little bit of support of the previous high. And we have a little bit of price action in this range right here. So we could say that we could have a possible range of support. You could say potentially we might have, say, support within this channel right here with Visa, especially since we have that price action in there. That was just a way to try to highlight the range there. I don't do that too often, so I'll try not to waste time while I'm doing this. But yeah, a nice big, well, not nice, a pretty big red candle out of nowhere, which is kind of a sign that we might have some sell action. So let's zoom this up a little bit, see if we can see anything more in a week-to-week sense. So yeah, when you zoom it in, like, you get a little better appreciation. So you could say overall it's been quite bullish, right? Quite positive momentum. But you can see there has been some little downtrends here in the weekly sense. So that's just the value of zooming it in a little bit more. So here on this monthly sense, we could see a little bit more detail to the price action. There is some buying and selling, but majoritively the selling has won. We can see we have this pretty good swing to the downside here. We haven't had any signals of reversal quite yet, but it's starting to seem like it's flattening out slightly. Looking at the 200-day weekly moving average too, like you've been kind of noticing how I like this one. Look where it touched, just one little touch here, just wicked right down in there. So it's not a bad indicator, just the 200-day moving average on the weekly sense. Like, this is great long-term entries usually, but it also could be a sign of breakdown. So here on the, like, this is, yeah, you can tell that this has a lot of strength, because it doesn't just fall over like a lot of things. Like, but right here, it's interesting to see this go down and the price still go up. That is kind of an interesting thing to see. If that was more like the RSI right here, which I don't have because I can't have that many indicators, I'd be looking for some type of divergence right there, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So we would have to more or less consider that this is some giant, wave structure pattern, some type of Elliott wave pattern here. I mean, there's always the super cycle, so I think we could clearly say that's one. Now, is that two right here? Or that could be a possibility right here, and we've reached the fifth wave up. Now, after 5 waves up, what are we going to do? We're going to do a 1, 2, 3 kind of correction phase before potentially, let's say, doing another 5 waves up. I mean, I know it got all weirdly looking right there. That's because we got it on the log. It's better though, but I'm not completely sure that that is the right super cycle here. It could be different. That's seeming to be what I would probably do right now, vaguely, but it's not completely out of the picture. That it's something crazy like that. We have a huge extended third wave, and something that I haven't brought up really, because I'm not an Elliott wave expert, but there's usually always one wave that's longer. They call it an extended wave. So instead of being 5 waves up, it's got an extra set of waves in it, and they call that an extended third wave, or an extended fifth wave, or an extended first wave. And usually within each 5 wave pattern, there's always one extended wave. So looking at this, that could be something of what you're seeing here, a huge third extended wave, and we're just going to come down and touch, and we're going to continue up for a 4th wave up. Or, like I drew formally, it would have been something like this, where we're doing a 1, we're touching for 2, and then we're going up for, we're going up for 3. We're having another touch here, and this was the 5th wave. And now we're going to have a correction of a 3-wave pattern down. And when this comes down, what's going to be the trajectory? I mean, it's tough to say exactly, but it depends on how bullish this is, right? Either way, the thing is, this will happen. This ABC will happen. It's just going to be a matter of how big of it, right? Because if I'm wrong, and this is the 3rd wave up, and this is going to be the 4th wave down, it's going to have, what's it going to have? it's going to have an ABC cycle within it anyway, right? So it's going to have either a little ABC or a large ABC corrective wave pattern here, in my estimation. So this is where sometimes, like in a grander super cycle, I mean, let's say hypothetically this is the top, which I'm not completely certain that it is. This is where sometimes like these Fibonacci retracements can give you an estimation of, well, where should you see retracement down towards? Well, depends on how bullish this is, right? If it's really bullish, a touch on the 382 is kind of what we should expect. So here it is. It touched right here perfectly on the 382. So if Visa is going to be, leading the forefront in electronic payments coming in the future, plausibly that could be the case, right? I mean, there's no real. It was funny. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no real guarantee that Bitcoin or any of those kind of digital currencies are going to be the mode of cashless payment, because really Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, I mean, those basically do the same stuff, right? They achieve the same thing, but there is something about the technology that Bitcoin and Ethereum run off of. It provides an efficiency that these other methods of payment don't have. So there will be a transfer of use case to blockchain. There will be, in my opinion. I mean, it's almost a certainty. Now, will that wealth, institutional wealth and government wealth, be put into these private currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum? Well, that's a little bit more of a long shot. I mean, that's where, if it does, I mean, hey, I'm going to be a happy man. But we're moving that direction. I think it's undeniable, and anyone that's saying that that's not where we're going, they are in denial. So, in my estimation, Visa could be bullish here. We could have a bounce, but that's what I'd be looking at here. What's this price action going to look like in the near future? Is this just going to be a smaller correction, like an A, B, C, especially if it like kind of has something like this? If it just truncates and keeps this support, this trend line, or keeps above this, I mean, that would be kind of bullish for me, because potentially we could just be starting, another 5 waves cycle up. And if that's the case, awesome, right? But this could be the top as well of a huge bull run for Visa, right? A huge bull run, a huge 5 wave cycle up. And I mean, there's 5 waves in here, man. There is. It's just a matter of, well, maybe that is a huge third one though. So just how big is this correction wave going to be? And are we going to immediately bounce back into the bull market, or are we going to have more of an extended bear market during this time frame? Because it's not completely crazy to think that we might form a cup of some sorts, right? Some type of bear market cycle, right, where we have an ABC to start it off, and then we just kind of have a little bit of, typical market cycle action to try to establish some new highs. And back to that idea that is Visa completely correlated to, let's say, bull markets and people spending and the amount of transactions that are happening? And I think I'm almost positive that that's how they make their money, right? The more transactions per day, the more money companies like Visa will make. So when everyone's staying at home, we have to only assume that transactions are decreasing. And that's how I like trading. Coupling like a little bit of the bigger trends in society with these technicals and seeing like, well, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty tough to jump in right here. But at the same time, if you didn't see this bar down here now, that would have been probably a pretty good entry, right? That probably would have been. And right now, well, we're not that far off of it, realistically. We're $152. Would I jump in right now? No, because on a weekly sense, we're still coming down. And on a monthly sense, we just never even have ever come down. So that kind of worries me about entering into Visa right now after having such a glorious run. So to have a run of 2,000% with only, a 30% pullback here and there, it's pretty crazy. I mean, that stuff does happen, but when you see these huge runs, like what goes up usually must come down a little bit, right? I mean, so like when we looked at that Fibonacci here, it's not ludicrous to say that something could be in this range too. We could see retracement back into, let's say, the 618 range. That would be also very fair. Or it could come to the 0.5. So we could see a touch here and then move back on. And a lot of times when we see, let's just say hypothetically, when we see a tight parallel channel, like we do have on Visa here, so let's just say we draw it from this next point, but before that, it would have been right here, hey? Before, if we just excluded this new data, that would have been the parallel channel of Visa coming up. And it looks like we broke out of it right there. So that was probably a good buy sell signal right there, right here. That could have gave you an idea. Also, we kind of just rounded right there, but that would not be good in this sense because Visa, on that monthly time frame anyway, like the momentum is useless. These crossovers, I'm not sure how much they're useful, but this is kind of a tough one to make an opinion on. Like overall, it moves upward, right? But a lot of times when we see these parallel channels, I'm just going to try to pull up something else to cross-reference. Let's just look at the Dow Jones Industrial here. I don't think that's going to be a good example. So what's another one here? Let's look at TD. It's a dirty mess. No, I don't like that either. That's where I guess I gotta apologize for trying to make points and I don't make them. So we're just gonna go back to Visa and I'm gonna try to explain it in a different sense. So what I was really trying to say is that the angle of these channels, these parallel channels, typically changes. So the trend line that you once draw is not always true. So you could say there's a parallel channel right there and we broke out of it, and then guess what? It formed a larger parallel channel that wasn't quite as steep, right? A lot of times that's what happens, right? When you can see these smaller little parallel channels, like right here, you can see it breaks out of it and then it has another little one up. That's what I was trying to say. There's always little things within bigger things, right? So that's something that you can basically say that, yeah, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is in this parallel channel up, and then you get the ABC down, and then we form another parallel channel with a particular trajectory, then an ABC or the corrective wave down, and then we get another parallel channel up. So even right here, you could say this first wave, right? What did we form? A little parallel channel, right? And we have that correction wave down. So the angle of these channels doesn't hold true forever. That's my point. You can't just draw one trend line, one channel, and say, hey, I'll never break this, right? So when we looked at just drawing a huge big one from a specific point in time, let's say we used, the data up to this point, let's say before, the last few days broke this price range, this would have been the channel, right? This would have been the channel. So in that sense, Visa has broken the channel. Now, will a new channel form? Probably, right? I mean, unless we're going to have a complete reversal in this chart. So that's just kind of good to point out how just because I like to draw channels, you can see that there's multiple ones within them, right? And that's where putting all that information together is going to serve you the best. So, like I said, with the huge market cycle, there is a potential. There's options here. This could serve as support, right? We have a support within this range between, let's say this. Yeah, I could definitely agree with this. I mean, more reasons than not, we got support right around here. I mean, why? Well, we got a touch here. We got some price action there, and it's also overlapping the 0.5 retracement of this whole run. Now we have this support right here, which is supported by a whole bunch of stuff too. We got price action all within this range, And then we also have the 0.382 support right there. Now, we could easily come back to the 6.18 or this range. I don't know if I would say easily, but it's a possibility, let's say. And then if that's just using it in a long time frame. Some other people might be using it for different senses, right? I mean, I'm just gonna get this volume out of here. I think it's better to use those fib ratios on a longer time frame versus short ones, but you can do it both ways, hey? So this move right here, this is 38% back retraced, and yeah, that's how you can measure these moves. And when you hear people saying, I'm taking a target, it's usually based off of this, right? So if you were gonna, let's say, short this right here, you would probably aim for the 3, that's what you'd aim for, right? You'd aim for, well, the conservative target would be the 3A2. And that's where it just hit right here. And then that's where these traders, I mean, when you're right like that, I guess it can seduce your own ego. But that's also good trading too. Comparatively speaking to just like, oh, I like this stock, I'm buying it right now, we're going to the moon. It's like, well, hopefully got some more rationale than that, but let's go. I want to go too, right? I mean, so we'll see what happens here. I mean, this could very well, it looks like it had a good bounce right there, so it bounced off the 38% range, and we had a pretty steep retracement right here. So that looks like a pretty 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not really sure where this could come down to, but I think you can see that we are quite overextended in Visa here too. And some of those conversations that I've had about the potential for having a makeover with the financial system, so to speak, is a very real present possibility. Another one that people like to use is the 200-day daily average. So historically speaking here, you could say when we're above, we're in a bull market. When we're touching, we're getting supported. And when we break through, it's kind of a sign of a reversal. Some people get a little bit more bearish. So when Visa broke that sign there, it was either a buy signal for some people or a sell signal, right? You don't want it to sell off every time it touches these lines of support. As you can see, historically speaking, with Visa, you should have been buying in, right? Buying in at these lows because it has a great upward trend and Visa's not going anywhere. At least it wasn't until we could have potentially a cashless system. And what's the value about that? Well, total oversight, right? Complete oversight of every cent that you move around. Even with all these benefits, emergency benefits, I mean, what do they want you to do? Sign up with your bank account to get them, to have the government see what's in there. I mean, well, maybe that's not why, but it's definitely an interesting conception. So those are some things to consider with Visa. I mean, with this here, I kind of see a 1, 2. Is there still another little wave to come down in the A phase here? Or is that 3 right here? Or is that 5? Do we have 5 waves here? See what I'm saying? Is it like this? Or have we already completed this? Is it already been A, B, C? And now we're ready to continue this party of Visa, you know, back up to the top here. Time will tell, hey? Time will tell. And I'm sure it's going to be dependent on if we stay into this pandemic or not, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that Visa's well-being is going to be based off of, what's it say? The amount of transactions spent, right? So, in my opinion, this is either a bigger A wave forming and we're just going to have a B up here and then another C, or this is already going to be probably the A wave down. Come on, man. and then we're still forming the B, and then we're going to see the C somewhere. Now, are these my actual predictions? Not necessarily, but this is a rough estimation. So, I mean, overall, historically, Visas look pretty good. I mean, is this the end of Visa? I mean, I don't really think Visa is going to be just taken out. I mean, it's pretty big. Everyone's got a Visa. Everyone needs a Visa. So for that to change, I mean, I think it would be a slow process of a new competitor stepping in. I don't really see just like MasterCard taking over Visa or something, or let's say that hypothetically governments want to issue a digital currency. I mean, I imagine Visa and MasterCard are going to have their hands in that as well. But in some aspect, right, yeah, we have to appreciate that. Well, we don't want to see, what do we don't want to see? Well, we don't want to see something like, we don't really want to see a big head and shoulders at the top here. I wouldn't want to see this, because if we did confirm the break of the neckline, we could see maybe a bigger turnover in the market, or maybe there will be, let's say hypothetically, a little bit more of a cup to be formed before we can pull back. And without the data in the past, it's going to be tough to make that assumption. You can see there's a little one right here, right? We can see that, hey, we had a nice run and we had a little bit of a pullback consolidation phase. Same thing here. You can see we're starting to look for cups here, right? We're starting to look for little cups. Little cup. What did we just form? A pretty good drop, so I would imagine that we're going to form some type of cup here. And for me, I'll probably, I don't know, I'm not sure if Visa is going to be in my portfolio, but it could be. It could be a small thing. It could be a small amount, just because it's been pretty good historically, right? I mean, for me, like I might, for entry point, I might just kind of wait and see how this price action starts forming, to make sure that we don't have just like a breakdown in price, let's say, below some of these major supports. So I wouldn't really want to see it, the price break below, let's say, this 111. For some of those reasons, I think there's a pretty big drop right here down to 84 afterwards that I wouldn't want to be a part of. And let's just go back once more to the monthly. Okay. Where'd you go? There you go. One more time, just to see the percentages. Right there on the 0.5. So if that didn't hold, yeah, it would be pretty suspicious that we'd probably be coming towards, let's say, an 87, 84-ish dollar range right there if that one broke. So that'd be the golden pocket. If I seen Visa in this price range between 83 and 80, 87, I'd probably be buying this stuff for sure. There'd be a strong incentive for me to buy this, right? It'd be undervalued in my opinion. Right now, it's not time for me to get in. Is it time for you to sell? That's going to be your personal choice, but we're still respecting a pretty good positive uptrend here. We haven't broke this last little previous high, and you could always use the last low as an indicator of, okay, I don't want to wait until these areas in terms of selling my position, but something like this 134.51 would probably be a pretty significant level that I'd be looking at, and maybe you want to put a range that you don't want to see it drop below, let's say, the 135 to 122 range. Each person can have their own idea. Maybe you want to drop it even a little bit lower. But yeah, I'm not here to tell you when to buy and when to sell. I mean, for me, it's tough to give recommendations for every single person in every single position. But for me, I think you can just get the value about the conversation we had about this, right? It's definitely an interesting stock. It's done very, 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 very well over the last decade. which would just make me a little bit suspicious about when are we going to have some retracement. I mean, but sometimes things perform very well for very long. I wish we had this data with the last market crashes to see if that suspicion is right, that Visa does somewhat have a little bit of a bear market during, well, global recessions. And if that's the case, we could see somewhat of a little swoop, right? So do you really want to be selling your positions here, 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 here? Well, it depends on, we'll look at these in years, right? This could be a while. How, how long do you want to hold on to this stuff, right? So for me, for entering into positions, we want to see consolidation with potential to the upside. Right now, this is hugely extended. So for me, unless we started seeing retracement back to this $87 range, I could be kind of looking in like, man, I want to get into some Visa shares right now. This looks like a great opportunity. We've already went through the a majority of the bear market. Now we have so much potential for the future. That's what I want to see from these positions. That's how you can make great money. That's how you have a good risk to reward. But now, if you want to have a little bit of Visa in your chart, this might just be good overall as an eye into how these companies are doing. So I think that's what I'm going to do for the first video here. The next one is going to be on the way shortly. Hopefully have a great Friday. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.